Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection. And the two guys that make the connection to the UK are here as, oh, yeah, we got to go that way. Down below, Simon Bray is here. Steven Reid's here. It's so hard to do this. It really is. I have a background in TV. You'd think I'd know how to do that because, you do that. You do like the news and things. They always like point to things that are behind them that aren't really there, but you got to know like which side they're on, especially like weather people and stuff. Anyway, guys, how are you?
Perfect. Fantastic.
I'm
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not down below on my bit.
And you know,
You are for me.
and you are to me as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
So,
bizarre. We'll have to
Another
wait and
jokes.
see how the video turns out,
We
right? Because
will. Yeah.
I could be pointing to nothing, right? For all I know.
Yeah. You two have probably cut me out of the screen already.
Yeah. So we're all three fired up because we were like ranting and raving before we started recording today. So we're right in the mood for our kickoff thing that we do on this show each and every other week for I don't know how many years going. Simon, what are you drinking?
I'm so glad you asked because today I'm gonna win the competition. Yes, I. And you know what? I'm gonna do a pilot, and I'm not drinking beer.
Oh, okay.
But you know what I am drinking?
I don't know.
I promised I'd drink the AC/DC beer, but I'm not. I'm not because something else has come to my possession since we last spoke, just 2 Saturdays ago. That's right. That's right. Just come to my position, my possession. That's right. I had made wine.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's a very cool
I
looking
know.
bottle.
Certainly, yeah. Well, the bottle itself isn't cool, apparently. If you take the super cool wrapping off, it's just a plain bottle, and people complain about that shit because some people have no life whatsoever. Now, this is Iron Maiden Darkest Red, and do you know what? I've got about 5 bottles, and I've been working my way through them like I'm a member of the Detroit Spinners. So I already know that I like it. It's really plummy and throaty, as if I was from Joesborough, throaty. And you know what? I don't even feel the urge to describe it as an Iron Maiden album. It's just very nice, surprisingly nice. I'm not going to put you on the spot this week. So
Okay.
Can you
yes,
hold it up again, Simon, the glass up? Because that's got a very nice, yeah, it looks
yeah,
damn good.
very sexy,
And it's
isn't it?
kind of plummy and got little
Very plummy.
notes of berries and whatnot.
Mm. Yeah, because sometimes you think, oh, band wine, it's going to be shit, isn't it? Because I don't know about around where you are, but Snoop Dogg's wines everywhere around here. And Snoop doesn't like wine, does he? He doesn't drink wine. So why would you buy drink from somebody who doesn't like it?
That's like Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley opened up like a brewery somewhere. They don't fucking drink. What do they know about beer, right? It's like,
Rock and brews.
but
Come
it's gonna make
on.
money, but as long as it
Not
makes
just
money, they
one.
don't care, right?
Loads. I've got the Kiss rum, and it's really good. You can tell that they have nothing to do with it.
Of course. Of course.
I will admit to being an absolute Luddite when it comes to wine. I just don't understand it at all. There's nothing for me.
I have to
This
be
is
in the mood
This is
for it.
Portuguese, so and I normally like a nice Chilean Merlot or a Malbec, but this is really nice. Yes,
It doesn't get on with me at all. I don't have the palate for it. It just befuddles me. I don't get the attraction to it at all. But everybody else does. It's me that's out of step with this one because I'd like to because there's so many intricacies and different grapes and it tastes different depending on where it comes from in the world. It's got all these nuances. It's very collectible. I would like to like it. I just can't get on with it. I've tried because I like the collecting aspect of
I
it.
don't I don't love it either, Stephen.
Mhm.
I do like a nice glass of red every so often, especially like with a like an Italian restaurant, with a good meal. I like you mentioned Malbecs. My wife loves Malbecs. I don't mind a good Merlot or a Chianti or a what the hell you call I can't even think of the name. But anyway, there's some reds that I do like. I don't like white wine at all. I like to cook with it, but I don't like to drink it.
It's all just different grades of vinegar to me. And that tells you
And
all you
you're,
need to know
you're
about
you're
no,
not that
that
far off, right? Yeah, it's
vinegar is just Austrian wine.
Well, the thing is, I like vinegar, but not to drink it.
oh yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, so
Yeah,
I was
now we've
unprepared
really
for.
upset loads of people.
Oh yeah, really. I mean, we've still got two to go here. Okay. But I was underprepared for today. I actually it was about I don't know 2 hours ago. I thought, oh, do I have beer in the house? And I opened the fridge, and I thought, I've got two. One's from the same brewery that I showed 2 weeks ago. So, don't want to do that. But the other one, well, there can be only one. It's the Highlander. And I thought, well, how apt. There you go. I would love to tell you that it was all planned. I'm really clever. Look at me go. No, this was one of two beers I have left in the house. So this is from the Fine Ales Farm Brewery. I've showed them on the show before. It's what looks like this in the glass. Here we go. That was fabulous.
It looks good.
It looks very good, I have to say. Nice head on it.
Looks like a lager to me.
Very good point. I haven't actually even said that. Did I even tell me? It just says traditional Scottish amber. So it's an amber beer. That's
Okay.
what it is. It's not, I don't know if I would describe that as amber.
Yeah, it's a little light for amber.
It's a little light for amber.
That's why it looks like a lager to me, like a
Yeah,
traditional
it's
lager.
very smooth. It doesn't drink like a lager. It's very
No.
smooth. It's very nice. That's lovely, actually. Yeah, that's, I don't know. Simon didn't score, so I'm going to give this lots out of 5. That's what I'm going to give it because it's really tasty.
That's a good amount.
Yeah.
Well, I have another beer here from the Source Farmhouse Brewery in New Jersey. Those of you might remember, my brother supplied me with all sorts of beers from this brewery not over the summer. And believe it or not, I still have a few left. And this one is called Rhine Heights. Kind of cool looking can. It's got almost looks like the Scottish countryside there, right,
It does.
Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
German style Pilsner Lager. Pilsner Lager. That's kind of I've never heard that before.
It's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid, 5.4% alcohol volume. My dogs apparently like this one over here. Canned fresh from the source, and it looks kind of like this. I have it in my Kolsch glass from King's Court Brewery. King's, right? And it kind of tastes like a hybrid of a lager and a pilsner. It's very refreshing. Got a nice flavor to it. Not too heavy. What did I say? It was 5.2. Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good. It's kind of like a seventh son of a seventh son.
Oh, well, I mean, to me, that's fantastic. But there you go.
That's pretty damn solid, I think, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's beyond solid for me, but you know,
Okay.
we've done that show, so let's not do it again. This is
Right.
4.8, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I'm not very beer bret this evening, as you can tell.
Cool. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
All right, so we are tackling favorite soundtracks on this episode today. And some of you might be saying, wow, Pete, you've done a lot of different soundtrack shows on the channel. Yeah. I mean, we've done it on Hudson Valley Squares. We did it on Monsters Den. Now we're doing it here. So I personally have tried to pick, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not a huge soundtrack guy, but I do like some soundtracks, and there are some that I've had in my life that I don't own anymore. 2 of them specifically I'll talk about today, but I still really kind of dig them, and whenever I hear the songs, I still have fond memories of them. But I did pull out 3 that I don't believe I've ever talked about here on the channel before. So yeah, and you're going to hear from these 2 gentlemen for the first time, their 5 favorites. So what did we do last time? 2, 2, and 1, or 3, 2?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, whatever that. Yeah, that sounds good.
Come on, Simon.
I've gone out of focus.
Buzzy Simon goes first.
And I want to go back into focus. Why am I not in focus? Don't like it.
No.
It didn't won't go.
I haven't touched anything, honestly.
Go real quick in and out.
Hold on 1 second.
Go on. Dive at the screen, Simon.
Different
Whoa.
one. Whoa.
Look at this. Look at the camera. Oh, and he's gone now. He's back.
Please pardon us during these technical difficulties.
There we go. I am a multimedia expert.
Absolutely. See, it's a show about film, and you've just shown all those clever edits and everything that you've just done there. Look at that. Fantastic.
Without me having to do a damn thing.
Yeah. So I'm first. I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I could right. Metaphorical cards on the metaphorical table, as you guys know, but many other people don't know. I used to teach film studies for about 20 years, so I'm familiar with the language of film, and all its glory. And one of the great
I mean,
things about
not to interrupt you, but do you remember, God, 15 years ago, however long it has been, when you and I first met via the internet, and we were chatting, and you mentioned what you did for a living, and remember how impressed I was? Because to
yes,
me, the
yes, I
coolest
do.
job in the entire world is someone who teaches people about film study. That to me is like the coolest job ever, because I took a course in college on this, I think it was called the study of the film. And even though it wasn't part of my, major or anything like that, I took it because I love movies, and that was the coolest class I've ever taken in my life. So I was like, Simon is like a god because he's doing the coolest thing ever.
And the absolute greatest thing is that there's enough choice on the specifications that I've taught where you can actually teach shit that you like. At least three of which will be turning up shortly. However, let's go with number 5, shall we? I feel as though we should. Don't know about you crazy kids, but I spend a lot of time rooting around charity shops looking for bargains and looking for cool stuff. Yeah, that's right. Music stuff, not just settees and stuff, because that would be weird. But and I've noticed recently that the album I'm about to show you, which isn't actually by Scissor Sisters, which is in every single church shop that you go into. No, but this album is in everything, and it's not metal by any stretch of the imagination. Not even on the borders of metal, but it is, I think, the only record my mum ever owned, and it's genius. It's absolute genius. It is, of course, the soundtrack to The Sound of Music. Oh yeah. Oh God, it's so good. I've changed color, haven't I? Yeah. It's just so good. I listened to it, to be honest, for the first time properly for a while. I mean, The Sound of Music is on British television, every 4 or 5 minutes, isn't it? Well, it certainly used to feel like that. But I properly listened to it the other day for the first time in ages. Still remember all the words. Hey, what about that lonely goatherd? Hey? Yes, indeed. It's just so good. And, the bit when she hits the height, when Eleanor, who's it? Is it? No, it's not Eleanor Porter. It's Peggy Wood. I think she hits the high note in "Climb Every Mountain." It's just so good, so good. And the way that they all sing, quite posh, quite nice, and it's absolutely lovely. It's just great. And then I went back and I picked the album out for the first time in quite a while. You've got what a package it is too. But that, get lost, yes. Get lost, Rick. Wait, no, just get lost. Look at that. It's just great. I've just had so much fun reminding myself of you think, well, particularly growing up here in the UK, where this I believe was number one for about 7 years in the 1960s.
That was
which is
big here
probably
too. I mean, we all grew up with the Sound of Music here too. That was
probably why there are so many copies knocking around now. I can't get it back in, but I'll do that while I'm pretending to listen to you after. Doe deer, female deer, Ray, drop of golden sun, something good. It's just so good. How do you solve a problem like that? These are the big issues, aren't they? They really, really are. And a note that my mum wrote down that she wrote it wrote it in 1965. It's even older than me.
Look at that. Not by much.
I know. And it smells like old person. It smells musty, like it's been in the family for longer than I've been alive. So, yes, Stephen.
No. It's all good. It's all good. I mean, my mind has gone to what kind of old person smell it could be, and I'll leave
There's
that
probably
there.
many, right? Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes, some that you think, oh, isn't that pleasant, and others maybe not so much.
Okay, yeah. So, it makes sense. So, I was looking through things that I like, and quite often these are films that I really like. I could actually do a whole soundtrack thing on films that I don't like, but the soundtrack is great.
Okay.
Yes, I could do that. Yeah. Just put that to one side. Yeah, fantastic. But do you know what? We all remember that Star Wars is the only film that I've ever walked out on. Not we all remember. I remember being shocked last time I said that. Yeah. Thank you that you were paying attention. I am, however, a big fan of Star Trek. Yes, I like Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the world's slowest film.
Yeah.
Oh, look
Here
at
comes
that.
the Enterprise.
I rewatched it again recently because it came out on 4K, and I was like, all right, I haven't seen this since it first came out. It's just as boring as it was back then. I mean, it looks great, right? But it's compared to the ones that came after it, it's pretty boring, I think.
Oh, Starboard nacelles.
Yeah.
Love.
That needle's moving really slow, right? Yeah.
Then you remember that Star Trek: The Motion Picture was directed by Robert Wise. Um, um, yeah. But like all great soundtrack albums, there's like kind of like little musical motifs that go all the way through. I mean, we can sit here and take the piss out of songs, out of tracks called Floating Office or Spock's Arrival, The Force Field, The Meld. We could do that, but the theme that went on to become Star Trek: The Next Generation is just one of the greatest pieces of music of all time. It really is. And listening to it again, you just think, oh, what great music, but what a deep, dull film. What a clever dog you are. You're on board, aren't you? Yes, you are.
In what now seems to be traditional UK connection fashion, she's got to go to the bathroom again right in the middle of our taping, even though I just took her out before we started. She seems to know what I'm talking
You can
to.
go, you can trust
Yeah,
us.
I want you to go out of the room so they can talk about you and tell jokes while I'm. So, gentlemen, carry on. I'll be right back.
See, it's at this point you think we should have prepared something for when this next happens. Yeah.
I can barely prepare anything, just to do show and tell.
Yeah.
That's what
Absolutely.
I just made this shit up 5 minutes before we came in. I've never even heard of these albums. I'm not just
These dogs are just like robots. He actually
yeah.
just does
Well,
this now to give us
what
a
I would
little.
say is that my dogs are upstairs in bed already.
See, that's because you're responsible. Nothing to do with the time
No,
difference between the two of us.
they've done. He's back.
Oh,
Fantastic.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, those would be my first two choices, and I'm intrigued to know what Steven Reid wants to say.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be very Simon Bray about it. I'm going to be a little bit Uncle Simon, and I'm going to tell you first some of the things that I'm not going to talk about. Now, I'll apologise. There's going to be quite a lot of glare tonight because records are in plastic sleeves, and so I've taken some out and some not. 'Cause I've got quite a lot of show and tell. I'm sure you two will be delighted to know. You'll love it when I bring all the props. So what I'm not going to talk about, okay, is Ulysses 31, okay, because it's a fantastic theme tune. But finding a soundtrack album that actually has all the incidental music, which is some great guitar playing, there's genuinely some shred guitar playing in the incidental music of Ulysses. It's just not there. There's about 5 different versions of this album. I mean, this one has the theme tune, which is phenomenal, by the way. This is a French cartoon. It was dubbed into a million different languages. It's fantastic. It's really good. I'm actually rewatching it as we speak. But there's a Spanish version, there's an English version, there's a French version. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. That's one of the ones I'm not going to talk about. There are lots of great rock compilations that kind of masquerade as soundtracks. Okay. And I quite like Last Action Hero.
That's really good. That was
this
one of
is
my
really
picks
good.
on Hudson Valley Squares. That's an
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah.
this is really good, but not all of it's really in the film. It's not really a soundtrack, is it? But Big Guns by AC/DC, that I mean, it's Thunderstruck with a different name, but it's really good. You've got an excellent track here by Alice in Chains,
Yeah.
really good Queensryche song, Real World, that's excellent. You've got Two Steps Behind by Def Leppard. This is really good. It's really good. I'm not going to talk about that, obviously. I'm also not going to talk about the Butterfly Ball, okay? But when you have people like David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes and Ronnie James Dio being moles and whatever else they happen to be, it's got to be worth a listen, doesn't it? I mean, it's way better. This is Roger Glover from Deep Purple and all that kind of stuff. It's way better than that would suggest. If you haven't heard that, actually it's phenomenal. Some of the vocal performances on that are great. I'm also not going to talk about the most glaring album in the entire world because it is silver, okay, and it is also a clear vinyl. This is the McVicker television soundtrack with Roger Daltrey of The Who singing all the songs. It's probably my favourite Daltrey-connected album. I
It's
really
really
like
good.
this.
Yeah, I've never seen McVicker, but I have the album and it's great. I didn't even think of that. That's a good one. Yeah.
The it's of its time. I wouldn't suggest it particularly stands up these days as an entertainment kind of to watch hard going. He's good in it, to be fair. He's really good in it. But there you go. So that's what I'm not going to talk about. So I'll start with what I am going to talk about, other than the fact that I'm not going to talk about the first thing I'm going to show. Okay. So, okay. So for my first real pick, I'm going to go for a soundtrack album that's got a phenomenal guitarist, known for having a great fretboard tapping technique. It's a marionette puppet show, and it was called Starfleet. Okay. But I'm not going to talk about this. I am not going to talk about this. So this is Brian May and Eddie Van Halen and some other talented people doing a later version of Starfleet. What I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about, he says with too much to pick up here, X Bomber, okay, by Bow Wow. So this is the soundtrack to the original Japanese version of this, okay. Look at all this stuff, look. It's fabulous, so it is. And this is just brilliant. This is how to write television music. So it has a great theme tune, it has a great closing titles, but they do the incidental music. This is not one of these albums where there's kind of lots of silliness in between. Bow Wow, a Japanese rock band, actually went and did the whole music. So this is from 1980. It was a seventh studio album. And I mean, I like the Brian May thing, but that is just a couple of people getting together and having a bit of fun and making some nice guitar noise. And it is a bit of nice guitar noise. And Brian May sings, and you either like him sing like this or you don't. And I quite do, to be fair. But that is just fun. This is such a fantastic album. I mean, look at this. It comes with a nice poster in here. There's great designs for all the ships. Look. See, that's more exciting than the Enterprise going past. But musically, it's just absolutely brilliant. Kyoji Yamamoto, the guitarist, is just phenomenal. He plays some really great stuff on this, but what I really like is they somehow managed to turn a rock album into a genuine piece of music that goes with a kid's space opera puppet show. It should make absolutely no sense. I like Bow Wow and the period when they were Bow Wow in general. It's not one of their best albums because that would be really unkind because they've done some really genuine, great hard rock albums, but it's one of my favourites of theirs because it just touches so many notes that I really like about these kind of things. It's a great album. Not so easy to get over here these days. It's not the cheapest thing these days, but it is well worth it if you can have a listen. It is on YouTube. It's well worth giving it a go. So number two for me, these are not really in order, to be honest. Okay, I've just chosen the five favourites. It's not really albums. I'm totally cheating today. Totally cheating. Okay, so for my second one, I'm going for a 1982 film directed by Ridley Scott. It was a flop at the box office. It's gone on to become one of the biggest ever kind of cult classic films, along with The Shawshank Redemption. It's bleak, it's dark, it's pretty much unrelenting, and that made Vangelis the perfect composer for Blade Runner. Okay, this is just an outstanding piece of music. I mean, Vangelis has been around for decades, a couple of decades, as a very successful musician and composer. Prior to this, he'd had a couple of decent charting albums in the UK in the 70s. He'd had, well, it's not synth pop, but it is pop with synths, but it's not synth pop. Success with John Anderson as John and Vangelis. Really, it was Chariots of Fire that exploded him everywhere. He just became a household name. You couldn't escape this album, or certainly the theme to Chariots of Fire, everywhere. That album went to number 1 in the US, it got to number 5 here. You still hear at least once a week. You just do. It's the law. I mean, he's done other great stuff as well. The score for 1492, Conquest of Paradise, that's one of my favourites as well. But this is just phenomenal. The spoken passages that are taken from the film and added in to the music here just take it to another level. It's fantastic. To me, it's his crowning work, and I like a lot of Vangelis. I don't have it all because I mean, he had about 3,000 albums or whatever. I mean, that's an exaggeration. It's not all great, to be fair, but there's lots that is. But this is brilliant. It didn't come out until 1994, strangely enough. And there is an extended version that's got lots and lots of the other music that's in the film that didn't make it onto the one CD version. He wrote new music inspired by the film for that version. It kind of grown a life of its own. But I love the film, to be fair, and always have done. But the music, it's one of those things you can't listen to the album without seeing the film. You can't see the film without hearing the music. They are very much like that. It's perfect for what it's intended for. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's they were made for each other, kind of, and you can't pull them apart. That's such a great movie. You ever see the sequel, which came out so many years later? It's really good too.
It is really good. Yes, it took me a long time to watch it because it was kind of sacred ground for me. You shouldn't go there, and I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, yeah. It's a shame that Blade Runner back in its heyday was just not really seen as the great achievement that it's looked at all these years later. I mean, I think that film deserved, like, the accolades that it's gotten later on should have happened when it first came out.
I think in many ways it's kind of legacy because it wasn't a hit. Has maybe grown over the years, so we've had different cuts and different versions, and whether that would have happened if it had gone massive, I don't know. It's kind of the perfect film to go under the radar, I think, because it's just got an under the radar feel about the whole thing.
Yeah, all cult films are like that. I mean, it's just, yeah, maybe that's just the way it should have always been. And sometimes a cult film, even if it didn't get all the success when it was first released, it gets that over the years, kind of after it's come out. And yeah, people love it now, and people have loved it for a long time. So,
correct.
All right. Well, you just talked about Vangelis, and how about Tangerine Dream? So my first pick for today is the soundtrack to the William Friedkin film Sorcerer by Tangerine Dream. So, of course, William Friedkin, The Exorcist, right? Plenty of other films. And this was it was 1977, I believe it was. This is, again, kind of like Blade Runner, a movie that at the time didn't really do much of anything. I mean, critics liked it, but this was not a big blockbuster. And by this time, Tangerine Dream had been busy making weird electronic albums for a number of years. And this, like, you could say, take out all of this in the middle. And if you're new to Tangerine Dream, you had no idea that there was a film called Saucer or whatever, you play this and it plays like a Tangerine Dream album normally would. It's moody, it's kind of spooky, and this is a film. This is not a horror film. It's not a sci-fi film, right? Very good kind of drama. Really, really interesting film, by the way. And one that I only really started discovering a few years ago. But the soundtrack is awesome, and you get some longer tunes, some shorter tunes. You get all the sequence synthesizers and mellotron and a little bits of guitar here and there, right? But what's really cool, I was just looking, I hadn't pulled this out in quite a while, and I was looking at the picture of the three guys. So, of course, this is Peter Baumann, Christoph Frank, and Edgar Froese. Look at this picture of them and tell me, doesn't that look like a black metal band, or like maybe the guys in Celtic Frost or something like that? I mean, look at them. It's like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow, look at that. Yeah, exactly. I was like, Jesus, that's pretty crazy. Anyway, excellent soundtrack. And if you are into like any of those early mid-70s Tangerine Dream albums, they did lots of other soundtrack albums, but this, in my opinion, is just as good as a lot of their albums from the same time period. It's just moody and spacey and eerie and kind of just weird and wacky and krautrocky and the whole Berlin school type of thing. Excellent stuff, and a really great movie. And again, kind of like what Steven says, when you watch the movie, you expect to hear all that stuff going on in the background. And now that and I had this soundtrack way before I even got into the movie, so I bought this years and years and years ago. I hadn't even seen Sorcerer. So now that I have, it's almost like, now when you hear it, you think of these great scenes. And this scene right here is amazing, where they're trying to drive this truck over this like bridge, that's like ready to fall apart. And it's just like one of the most nail-biting scenes ever, out in the middle of the jungle, right, with the river underneath. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, that's my first pick. And my second pick, ironically, that was 77. This is 78. This is a soundtrack to a film that my parents took me to see in the theaters. And I think it's the only time I can actually ever remember that the soundtrack being so good that like people of all ages were dancing in the aisles and in their seats. And I've never seen that before in a movie theater. And that is the soundtrack to Grease. All right, let's get one of it here. There we go. Of course, starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, the late great Olivia Newton-John, and Stockard Channing and all sorts of other people. And I remember as a kid, I had the vinyl. I don't own it anymore, but it was a double album. And I've seen, when I was a kid, I love this movie. I've seen this movie so many times. It's like one of those like 70s musicals that even nowadays I watch all sorts of other stuff, and I'm not really into musicals anymore. I can still watch Grease, still get a kick out of it. I know like every line in the film. I know all the songs in the film and when they're coming. And again, you've got two albums. It's a double album. So you got Frankie Valli, Frankie Avalon, John Travolta, and Olivia Newton-John both sing a lot of songs on here. Sha Na Na sings like almost the whole side. I think it's side 3. Anybody else I'm missing here? Stockard Channing sings some stuff on here too. And just so many, like Summer Nights, Hopelessly Devoted to You, You're the One That I Want, the Grease title track written by Barry Gibb, that's side 1, classic. And then there's all these other great songs. Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee, Grease Lightning. I mean, just so many great songs and such a fun, feel-good album. Again, very different from anything else I listen to, but sometimes, kind of like with the Sound of Music thing, like Simon was saying, sometimes you get introduced to these musicals or these soundtracks at a young age. And even though you kind of grow past stuff like that throughout the rest of your life, you still have fond memories of that soundtrack from your youth. And I think I will always like Grease, and it's always going to be pretty special to me. So yeah, that's my first two. Back to Simon.
Great choice.
And the boss is, have you guys ever heard this? Are you familiar with it? Or is this this is like an American phenomenon? I don't know.
No, Grease is huge here. I've got it
enormous, yeah. Grease Lightning's just a tune.
Yeah,
it's great. Absolutely.
Yeah. Talking about tunes, I'm absolutely not going to show any wrestling CDs. Nope, that's just not. Nope, definitely.
There are some really good ones though.
Really are, but you know what? I can't find on CD Bobby Roode's theme "Glorious," which is just like the most power metal thing in the world. It's absolutely glorious. But yeah,
It's
I'm
really
also definitely not going to talk about Rocky. Because,
oh yeah, that's good too.
Yeah, No Easy Way Out wasn't a hit in the UK, but what a tune! I'm just saying.
Yep.
Whereas most people don't remember that Survivor had a second hit.
Yes.
Not a clue. That's just not. I'm not talking about that. I'm going to move into the realms of 3 of my favorite films, which also just so happen to have 3 of my favorite soundtracks. How cool is that? Now, yes, one of the things that I got to teach when I was teaching films was documentaries. Documentary films, yes. And one thing I always used to do was, teach the kids the codes and conventions of the documentary. This is what you're going to expect, and then put on Spinal Tap.
Yes.
And every year, without fail, they all sat there and go, "What the fuck was so stupid? Oh my God." It's not real, kids. What do you mean it's not real? They're not a real. No. Yes. And recently I read that. I mean, soundtrack's great in the sense that I recently read that somebody said, "Well, the songs are a bit shit," which A, they're not, but B,
no, they're not.
That's the point.
Yeah.
They're knowingly stupid. Yeah. Working on a sex farm. I mean, come on. Yeah. Just big bottom. I mean, you've really got to get all those basses out, don't you? Really? But when the part of the film where they do listen to the flower people, you think, well, that's the quote. Before they discovered Venom, Denim, even, and the songs are just incredibly stupid and yet so well observed generically for what the band were. Just excellent. Just
you guys remember when they released like the sequel to that the album, like, God, was 91 or 92.
Yeah.
I remember when I saw that coming out, I'm like, why? It's like, you're not a real band. Why are you releasing a regular album? And like, I think they toured, and I'm like, really? No,
did.
we like you for what you are, but you're not a regular band. What are you trying to do? But it actually wasn't too bad.
Mm. There's a sequel coming out, isn't there?
I heard. I'm like, well,
I believe so.
I mean, come on. I'll probably watch it, but I think it's like 30 years too late for that.
I think it's a lightning in the bottle thing. How you go back and recapture that, I don't know. But here's
No, you
hoping.
can't.
You know, you can
They
only
could have
hope.
done it in like 95 or 2000. I think that would be more plausible. But now, oh, Jesus.
I don't know. There's a
The
lot.
boss is calling. I'll be right back. Hold
Oh,
on.
there you go. I think there's a lot of dinosaur rock kind of aspect that you could lean into. Do you know those veteran acts?
No, not going that way.
I don't think he's gone that way. No, I don't think
No,
he's
no,
gone.
okay, fair enough. I mean, he could have gone,
He could have done. Yes,
Ennio
absolutely.
Morricone, anyone? Yeah, I thought about that one, but just, yeah.
Come on, you're getting ahead of yourself now.
I'm not
Stop.
mentioning it, you said. I thought that, like yourself, I'd bring down loads, and then because you said we can't do this, you said we can't do this again.
No, well, I don't think so. I don't think it's allowed.
Oh, so yeah, I know. Anyway, my second favourite is absolutely one of my favourite films, from arguably my favourite film director. This is the soundtrack to in English it's called Talk to Her. It's yeah, there you go. It's the Pablo Almodovar film. I love Pablo. He's absolutely my favorite. Just weirdly, this have you ever seen this film?
No.
Oh, it's just weird AF. Let me tell you. But these two guys who both fall in love with these women, who both end up in comas, and then one of them does something. There's a twist that is just so horrific. It's just so whoa, no.
No spoilers.
Anyhow, just no. What did you think of that? And that's very much what he does in many of his films, which all have great soundtracks, mostly by Alberto Iglesias, not Enrique or his dad, whose name I can't remember. But if I keep saying Julio, there you go. There you go. It's essentially string-dominated chamber music mixed in with some flamenco-y kind of guitars and stuff. But when you know a film really, really well, and you're listening to the music, and it's taking you all the way through the film, and you're thinking, "Oh, that's a bit where, oh no, I can't believe that. That's where the bad shit happens." Yeah,
Yeah.
This is. I think it works without the film, but once you mentally think back to seeing the film, and I've seen this film more times than I care to imagine. I can't speak along with it because I can't speak Spanish, whereas I can talk along to this and my number one. It's just genius. And have you ever seen Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the most recent version? Alberto Iglesias did the soundtrack to that, and that is just phenomenal.
Okay, I need to revisit
Absolutely
that.
phenomenal, but not a bit like this. So, great film, great soundtrack. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go quite recent for the next one, and I mean I'm wearing a spoiler, so there we go. I am going to go for June. Okay, so we've got June 2 here. Whether you like the films or whether you don't, I do. It's one of those, you can't make a film out of those books and all that kind of stuff. I tell you what, this is a damn good effort. It really is. I really like it. But the soundtracks, to me, I like Hans Zimmer. Spoiler, right? Went to see, he wasn't there when we went to see him earlier in the year, but it was the Hans Zimmer experience kind of thing. I will admit that, and he's not alone, I'll come to it again later on, he uses an awful lot of the same tropes in an awful lot of his soundtracks. And he tends to have, for me, and the ones that I know, some fantastic music and some kind of forgettable stuff. What I like about Dune is that these are not albums that I can necessarily say have got songs on them, or necessarily even music to some extent. It's more sound and kind of theme, and really at volume, they become something in themselves And when you go to the cinema, or the pictures, as we say here, to see these films, and you're there with that experience, they kind of just elevate everything. I think it's very brave to not write much more kind of constructed, controlled stuff for these sort of stuff. There's a good composer word, but pieces, I suppose. There's not that kind of, it's not a theme. It doesn't kind of flow. It's just atmospheric noise in a lot of places. And you put the album on, and with no context, it can make zero sense whatsoever. I think it's really brave. I mean, this is like the 3-disc version for the first Dune film, and it's just phenomenal. It's just an experience. It's one of those. It's nothing like Brave by Marillion, but it is in the sense that this is not an album you'd put on when you have company. You wouldn't go, oh, the guys are coming around this weekend. Let's listen to Dune. It doesn't really work in that sense. Will we get some beers out now, guys? It doesn't really go that way. But to listen to on your own through headphones or whatever, it's just, it takes you somewhere else, no matter where you are and what's going on in the world. I really like music that is able to lift you from where you are and put you somewhere else entirely. And the music, perfect for the films, but it does that without the films in a different way. Really, really impressed with it. It really is something special. But I can't listen to it often.
I've seen both films twice, and I will say the second film, I saw in the theaters once and saw it on 4K in my home another time. The second film was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in a theater, because it's the second film. They're both great. The second film is just mind-bogglingly great, the way it's put together. But I'm struggling to even think of what any of the soundtrack sounds like.
Yep.
But I'm sure if I were to go, once we're done, go pop one of them in and watch 20 minutes of it, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, now I get what Steven's talking about.
Well, you see,
but I can't think of it. I can't picture it in my right now.
That to me is because it isn't most of the kind of, like for example, the Star Trek soundtrack that Simon spoke about earlier, which I adore, by the way, is much more structured. There are pieces, there are movements, it's recognized kind of composition. I'm not saying that Hans Zimmer is doing something that's never been done before. That would be a stretch. That would be a stretch. But what he's doing is he's entirely writing for the visual that's on the screen. And it's not really about whether you can bring it home and hum it. You can't bring them home and hum them. They're not tunes in that sense. Do you know? And
they're more it's mood pieces, and they're mood pieces that are meant to go along with settings in the film, right? Or whatever.
Yeah. And if you were to go and listen to it once we're done here, some of it may trigger memories of the film, but I'm not actually convinced you'll go, oh, that's the music that Steven's talking about. Because it isn't built in that way. It sounds like I'm talking it down now. That to me is talking it up. It's something else entirely. It's an experience listening to those albums. Yeah. And I really, really like them. And he's supposedly totally immersed in it. He was writing music beyond when he'd finished these works, because he was just inspired to continue to write for this world, which I quite like as well. There you go.
Great film.
So for my next one, slight spoiler from Simon Elder, I'm going to go for Ennio Morricone.
Great decision.
There we are. Yeah. I don't know why you didn't mention him at all, Simon. So this is the good. Well, yeah, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So
and it's such a great movie, and I rewatched it literally when I had COVID a month ago for the first time in ages, and I was like, this is such a great movie, and the soundtrack is just killer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those films that's on regularly here. It's on late night. It's on usually some nonsense channel that's number 642 on your whatever set you happen to have. If I see it in the listings, I'm invariably drawn towards it. I think I'm not going to watch it all, because it is sure to start at 1:45. Lo and behold, back at 2, I'm still sitting there going, because it draws you in, and I absolutely love it. But the music is fantastic. It's just so good. Yet again, it heightens everything that's going on. It builds the atmosphere. And I mean, Morricone's done some great stuff. Simon's already held up. What was it you held up, Simon, earlier on?
His greatest hits, 1966 to 1987.
Well, there you go, because he's done Once Upon a Time in the West, A Fistful of Dollars, The Mission, Cinema Paradiso. Yeah, absolutely. The Untouchables, great stuff. But I just love this album. I mean, the title, track is just iconic. But it's iconic for a reason, and it's been covered in so many different ways by so many different things. I think there's an Australian Western band that does a kind of comic version of it. It's brilliant, by the way. They're not taking the mick out of it. It's done so well, but it's just great music. But in a metal sense, it's Ecstasy of Gold. Because obviously Metallica entered the stage tour. I don't know if they still do, but they have done a lot over the years. And if you've ever been to see them, and when that piece of music plays and the whole place starts to sing it, it's one of those moments, isn't it? It's almost more exciting than them hitting the stage because it's just got so much atmosphere, and it builds and it builds and it just is phenomenal. So yeah, I have that's one of the first soundtracks that I thought I adore that, and I adore The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's a great choice. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, Morricone is just he's in a league of his own, right? Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think I didn't choose it, but it makes me think that and I have it here somewhere, the soundtrack to the original Godzilla film, created by Akira Ifukube, is also amazing, like for in a lot of the same ways that like certain scenes in The Good, Bad, and the Ugly you think of as that all of a sudden that come in, right? You tie it together. It's the same thing with the Godzilla film. There's certain big swells and things that happen that, for certain scenes that you always remember and you wait for them. It's like, oh, okay, Godzilla's going to knock down that telephone wire, that electric wire right now, and then boom, the score is going to just blast in. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Good choice. All right, for my next choice, I'm going to go with the soundtrack to a film from 1980 that the movie's really good. It's a lot of fun, but the soundtrack is absolutely great, especially if you are like an R&B and blues fan. It's like a tour de force. There's so much great stuff on here. And I remember like when this comedic team first donned the black caps and the sunglasses, people kind of thought it was a ridiculous joke. But as a kid growing up in the late 70s and a huge fan of Saturday Night Live, I was totally taken by the Blues Brothers. And then when John Landis directed and released 1980, the Blues Brothers film, I went out and bought the soundtrack immediately. And I've of course had to replace it on CD all those years later. But this is just a fun album of, you have the Blues Brothers themselves. Of course, you got Jake and Elwood. Jake, of course, is John Belushi. Elwood is Dan Aykroyd. And I always thought that John Belushi did a great job of singing some of these old blues classics and whatnot. So, of course, you got She Caught the Katy on here. There's great like instrumentals and like classic songs on here as well. You got the Peter Gunn theme on here. They do a great job on Give Me Some Lovin'. You got Shake a Tail Feather is with Ray Charles. Really good. Everybody Needs Somebody to Love. Theme from Rawhide. It's terrific. Minnie the Moocher, featuring Cab Calloway. Of course, he sang it originally. Comes back and does a version of it on here. Sweet Home Chicago, Jailhouse Rock is on here. Think with Aretha Franklin. Just a fun soundtrack. And I remember like when this first came out, I was almost a little disappointed because I wanted like every song to be sung by Jake and Elwood. But then once you realize that like, well, these are some classic old R&B and blues songs, they have to be sung by the people who originally sang them. And then you always heard how much that Belushi and Aykroyd worshipped that whole scene, like the Chicago and the Mississippi blues scene. You realize this is the way it had to be done. They sing enough on here, but you get all the classic artists on here too. So yeah, great soundtrack, lots of fun. And then my next one is a film. God, what year did this film come out in? Now I'm going to say 1985. I think it was. It was 1985. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of not showing up too well, but again, a big film here in the States. May not have been anything over in the UK, but this was a film. The title character, Jeff Spicoli, which of course was drawing a blank. Totally drawing a blank on his name. Damn it. I'm drawing a complete blank on his name. Oh my God, how can I do this? Anyway, Phoebe Cates is in this movie. Judge Reinhold is in this movie, and this actor who also played in war films, and he was also in Bad Boys. Why am I not thinking I can't think of his name. He had a brother as well. What's that?
Sean Penn.
Sean Penn. Thank you, Simon. Yes, married to Madonna.
Mr. Madonna.
Mr. Madonna. I couldn't think of his name. Anyway, he played the stoner guy, Jeff Spicoli, in this film. Anyway, just a fun kind of coming of age story, a film. Real, great characters. I've seen it a million times. Anyway, but the soundtrack is really fun. And the great thing about the soundtrack, it's got a little bit of everything. So again, we're looking at, early mid 80s here. So it kind of runs the gamut of like new age and rock and pop. I'll just quickly go through the track listing here and all the artists. So Somebody's Baby from Jackson Browne was featured in a major scene in the film. Waffle Stomp by Joe Walsh, Love Rules by Don Henley, Uptown Boys, Luis Goffin, So Much in Love by Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles, Raised on the Radio by Ravens, The Look in Your Eyes by Jared McMahon, Speeding by the Go-Go's, Don't Be Lonely by Quarterflash, Never Surrender by Don Felder, Fast Times by Billy Squier, Fast Times at Ridgemont High by Sammy Hagar, and that's the one big heavy metal song in the film. I Don't Know, Spicoli's Theme by Jimmy Buffett, Love is the Reason, Graham Nash, I'll Leave It Up to You, Poco, Highway Runner, Donna Summer, Sleeping Angel by Stevie Nicks, She's My Baby and She's Out of Control by Palmer Jost, and Goodbye, Goodbye by Oingo Boingo. Lots of fun. Great. I mean, just great, 80s songs. I mean, it's a typical 80s soundtrack, but lots and lots of fun. And it's great how in the film, like they perfectly threw in songs that fit specific scenes, and kind of like what we were talking about earlier, whereas a lot of times when you rewatch the film or you're thinking about scenes in the film, you tie it directly to that song that comes in right when that scene is happening. That to me, it makes a great soundtrack, makes a great, way of putting the film together. But then when you marry it with the soundtrack, it works really well. So yeah, that's my next one. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
There is a really memorable scene in Fast Times in Ridgemont High.
There's a lot of them, actually. Which one?
No, there's one in particular.
Which one? Let's talk about it.
No, it's okay. I'm just gonna move along. So it's my choice, isn't it? Yes.
I've never seen that film. There you go. Never seen it.
Oh, you have? Oh, it's so much fun. Yeah, it's a great film. Yeah, it's really
Okay.
good. I would highly recommend it. Have you ever seen? So just before we let someone go, to me, when I go back to those 80s kind of like coming of age films, Fast Times at Ridgemont High and The Breakfast Club to me are two untouchable films, and I still love both of them. I generally watch both of them at least once a year. I've seen them so many times, and Breakfast Club has a great soundtrack as well. So,
Yeah, I love The Breakfast Club. So if we're in that kind of genre, then
if you like Breakfast Club, you'll love this.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough for me. Good.
2,000 words by next week. If you can just let me have them, that would be great. Excellent. All right. So, when you're with your friends and they say, "What's your favorite film of all time, Simon?" And because I talk film, I'm usually going to go with something like Korean or something, Pan's Labyrinth or Devil's Backbone or something like that. And then everyone goes, "I've never read it. Can you pick something that you've read of?"
They're great.
Yeah, and then you go, "Oh, Lion King." Yeah, the original version, not the updated.
Right.
No, because that's not a thing. And you know what? I can think of another film that never had an updated version. I think when push comes to shove, it's my favorite film of all time. Yes, it is. Are we ready, kids? Yay! Ooh, yes, Wicker Man.
Yes. Oh, I love The Wicker Man. That's so cool.
There's only one version of The Wicker Man, and this is it.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. There's only one version. That other one's an abomination. Yes, that's the one right here.
What other one?
Exactly. We all need to forget that we ever saw it or knew about it. Yeah. No, The Wicker Man, brilliant.
Certainly never saw it, but what a great soundtrack. This is probably the proggiest thing in my collection. What you starts off with Corn Rigs as the playful. You think. I remember watching the first thing. What the heck is this? Oh, just and landlord's daughter. What a tune! What an absolutely banging tune! Can I just get a. It's just absolutely great, and rather like the film itself, the music is so kind of mythologized because it's by Magnet. It's not by Magnet. really Paul Giamatti, and he's dead. He died a long time ago, and you know the music got thrown under a motorway, didn't it? And it disappeared, and just so. But you know, when it gets when you listen to it, and it gets rather like the film when it gets to Summer Is Coming In, which I believe is the older, arguably the oldest song in the English language. You know, when spoiler alert, you know. Yeah, I just absolute genius. And when you can see, you know, the demented Islanders like giving it all out. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's folky, it's proggy, it's kind of rocks. It's acoustic. It's deeply, deeply strange. Like so, somewhere they're thinking about demonetizing this and getting a copyright
It was under
strike.
8 seconds, so I think we're okay.
You cut it off at 7:58. Excellent. That's why you're a pro. That's what it is. But great soundtrack. Absolutely great soundtrack. I would like to say that I also utterly love, and I can't find it, the soundtrack to Brief Encounter. But that's really just a little bit of Rachmaninoff, which is always good. Always good. But this absolute geez. And you think, yeah, I've got this like cool up to date version. Came out in 2002.
That's such a great choice. I never would have expected that. Hold on, there's more.
There was a limb, and on that limb there was a branch, and on that branch there was a nest.
So cool. Simon, you just made my year with that choice. That's awesome.
Excellent. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta tell you, I think the Wicker Man movie is just absolutely amazing. I've seen it so many times. I'm a huge Christopher Lee fan, but I love the whole folk horror style of horror filmmaking, and the movie is like so subtle and yet not, right? There's like some really like crazy shit that goes on in that movie, but it's unlike any other film that's ever been made. So good.
But you know, I'm glad that you sat down for that choice because shocks are so better absorbed with the knees bent. So, do you see what I did there? Do you see what I did there? Thank you.
Oh, so good.
Oh, how do we follow that?
I don't know. Good night, folks. Thanks for watching.
Oh dear. Well, there will be some that will maybe suggest that I have gone for a lot of low-hanging fruit on my choices for this. I could have done this show 3 or 4 times over, but there's a reason why I've gone for some low-hanging fruit in this, and it's because they're bloody brilliant. So I cannot talk about soundtracks without talking about John Williams. It's not a thing for me. I can't do it. Okay, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've been since before I saw the film. I was one of those kids that was completely obsessed with Star Wars figures. Had no idea what they were connected to, where they came from, or why. It was all down to phenomenal design, a great logo on the backing cards, which are all still sitting over here. I still have the backing cards over there. And I actually saw The Empire Strikes Back before I saw Star Wars because I hadn't seen it at the pictures. I hadn't seen Star Wars at the pictures, and The Empire Strikes Back came out before Star Wars appeared on British television. Go figure. Okay.
Wow.
So there, I saw those two out of sync. We used to get like a big blockbuster at Christmas, Pete. We got like you would see that film once, and you wouldn't see it for another 4 or 5 years. Okay, that's how it worked over here. And if you missed it back then, probably before you had a video recorder, then you missed it, and that was just it. But
I went to see Star Wars in the theater 7 times, and that was over the span of a couple of years leading up to the second film coming out. So by the time that second film came out, I was ready to go. I was like, all right, I've seen the other one now more than a handful of times. Bring it on. I can only imagine just like you miss it. That's it. You won't catch it again for that's torture.
I went and saw it for about 3/4 of the time, and I haven't seen another nanosecond of any form of Star Wars since.
How can you not like Star Wars? Oh.
Each to their own. each to their own. I mean,
Yeah,
something
I know, I
wrong,
get it.
but
Hey,
each to their own. But there you go.
the first
There we
time
go.
I went, I was spent a week. My brother and I spent a week on Long Island, with my aunt and uncle and cousins. And one day during the week, Star Wars had just opened, and my aunt and my two cousins, both female, and my brother and I went to see Star Wars in the middle of the afternoon. And I tell you, halfway through that, my brother and I are like, "Yeah, this is great." I look over, and all three of them are fast asleep. And then we walk in there, they're like, "Yeah, that wasn't so good." I'm like, "What? What are you kidding me?" They had no interest.
Madness.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, so this is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it
Do you
certainly
know?
is.
And right from the opening, which is such a great way to start it. It's such a great way to start it. Look at the back's cool too. And
Yeah.
I mean, and also the gatefold's cool too. Anyway, this is just fantastic. The main theme is absolutely iconic. You've got Imperial Attack, which is brilliant on here. But then you get things like Binary Sunset, which is kind of better known as Luke's theme, which is just a wonderful, melancholy piece of music as he's standing looking out over Tatooine with the twin suns. It's so good. It's barely on this, strangely enough. It's part of this is all kind of condensed down, and you get snippets of things, and they make little medleys, and they're not even brilliantly done. It's the strangest thing. But it's on subsequent versions. And if you Google it now, you find the new versions. You don't find the old versions unless you get one of those YouTube videos where somebody just drops the needle on the record and walks away until the side is finished. That's the only way you'll find the old version of the Star Wars soundtrack. But it's phenomenal. But realistically, I mean, that run that John Williams did with Spielberg and Lucas from 1975 with Jaws, which I don't have, strangely enough. I thought I did, but I don't. Through Star Wars, to Close Encounters, so we've got 75, two from 77. Then you've got the one it very nearly chose, which is Superman from 1978.
That's good too. Yeah.
Okay. I do love that the track listing's a sticker on the back. That's one of those. Did we not put a track listing on this album anywhere?
Let's put it on the back. It's practically covering the top half of the S logo. Like
that's more expense you've just cost us here. Look, but I absolutely love this. But then you go into it's a trilogy thing I've got here, but Raiders of the Lost Ark from 81. You've got E.T. from 82. It's crazy good. Now, I will admit that you can lift some of the music from, say, Star Wars and put it in Superman, and you wouldn't really bat an eyelid. I mean, you would because you know it's wrong, but it's quite easy to kind of get halfway through the Superman theme tune and realize you're doing Star Wars. You know,
very true.
I mean, he really does lean heavily on some very similar ideas and some very similar kind of instrumentation. But I tell you what, it's just iconic stuff. And if you want to be uplifted, you need either the theme tune to Star Wars or the theme tune to Superman. I mean that's how to write a theme tune for a superhero. It just makes you just do that as you. It just like you can't help but grow with it. It's just fantastic. I mean, he's done some great stuff later on as well. Let's not even talk about sequels because he's done a million sequels. But music to like JFK, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, which is off at a little bit of a tangent because that is him in a kind of different genre musically altogether, but managing to do some fantastic stuff. And his music has been really important to me. Star Wars is a massive part of my life, always has been, but the music really means so much to me. And I haven't put these in any sort of order, but if I was to be forced, I would need to put John Williams something at number one.
Number one, yeah. He had a way of delivering bombast.
Yes.
But in a majestic and classy way. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't just loud and big and boisterous for the sake of doing that. It was just, something about it.
Yeah, you can put vulnerability right next to that big bombast in the same piece, and it still makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Simon.
So when you said you were going to do an Uncle Simon, what you really meant was you were going to choose 8 albums at number 1.
Pretty much.
Yep, I would suggest that's probably right. And to be fair,
he did an Uncle Simon. He did a Pardo. He pulled a Catino and a Steve Keeler all in one.
All in one go. And to be fair, this one's actually got Raiders. It's got Temple of Doom. It's got Last Crusade. So
he's up to 11 now.
As well, if you want. Just saying.
I respect that.
I've gone all in.
Well, just like Steven, I'm going to kind of pick as my last choice here. I'm going to show you one, but it could be a handful from this particular group because they did a whole bunch of soundtracks, and that's mainly what they were known for. The band is Zombie. I've picked here the soundtrack to Dawn of the Dead, otherwise known. I mean, sorry, the band is Goblin, not Zombie. There's a more recent band. Sorry. It's Goblin, the Italian prog rock band. They did all sorts of soundtracks to a lot of Italian horror films. And they work specifically with Dario Argento and a whole host of other horror directors doing these great soundtrack films, right? And Zombie, as it was known in Italy, but here known as Dawn of the Dead, was a fantastic, fantastic film that George Romero directed here in the America, and then a slightly different version came out in Europe that was directed by Dario Argento. But now it could be my favorite soundtrack from Goblin, and it's weird, it's creepy. They're all like these little short little pieces, a couple longer ones, but they all, like, if you watch the films, they all complement certain scenes and whatnot, all instrumental. I think that Profondo Rosso, which the English translation of that is Deep Red, might be my favorite of the Goblin soundtracks. But they did Tenebrae, they did all sorts of other films over the years. So kind of like John Williams, Goblin became the kind of like the soundtrack band to a lot of Italian horror films, not just in like the 70s, but into the 80s, into the 90s, and they were doing it, not all that long ago. They're all great. They're all, again, it's to listen to these when you're not watching the film can be a little bizarre because you're kind of thinking, the way the tracks go from one to the other, they don't often segue well, and they kind of like, you get this weird spacey proggy thing 1 minute, next they're doing a little jazzy, then it's kind of weird bluesy thing, and then it's this, then it's that, then it's avant-garde. It's all over the place, but that's what kind of makes them so cool, right? But it perfectly complements the films, which is the important thing. So yeah, Dawn of the Dead, or Profondo Rosso, or Tenebrae, or any of the other ones that they've done. They're all great, all weird, but all totally Goblin. And that's, it's funny because Goblin has done regular albums that aren't soundtracks, which are really, really great. But most people remember them for doing the soundtracks to these Italian horror films. So yeah, that's my last bit. Covered some good ground today. All sorts of stuff.
That's been a lot of fun. We've been all over the place. I was really looking forward to this, and I was not disappointed.
Yeah. You know what I almost picked for this, because I do love it. I almost picked the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever with the Bee Gees and others, because it's great. It's great.
I wondered if you would go there because I kind of know you like.
I had it on my longer list. I think I talked about it on the Hudson Valley Squares. That's why I didn't pick it. I'm like, I don't want to go over the same stuff. It was either that or Grease as the last pick for today. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever talked about Grease on the channel. I really like that a lot too. So I figured, let me do that. But yeah, Saturday Night Fever is amazing. It's totally amazing.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we come to that part of the show. Before we say goodbye, Steven's going to give you a little preview into what's happening in 2 weeks here on the UK Connection.
Yes. Well, if you ask, then we will deliver. Unless, of course, we don't like the idea. Always bear that in mind. Okay. So when you ask, you have to factor in whether we like that idea or not. But if you ask, we will deliver. So in 2 weeks' time, we are going to talk about power metal. Okay. Power metal. Okay, is where we're going to go. So we're going to go to the year 1997, and we're all going to choose our 3 favorite power metal albums from the year 1997. So we got lots of positive comments when we suggested we would do a power metal show. So I expect lots and lots of participation in the comments of your favorite album from 1997.
And we know how everybody likes to kind of play along, right? So we've already announced it. So you all have 2 weeks to go back to wherever it is you go to look at the albums released per year. You can very easily go to Wikipedia and look at all the heavy metal albums released in 1997 and take a look and jog your memory. It's like, well, what were my favorite power metal albums from that year? Because, 1997, you should have lots of great stuff from bands like Hammerfall and Gamma Ray and Helloween and Stradivarius and all the usual suspects. That was a pretty big time for European power metal. That's kind of when it was all in full swing. So there should be lots to choose from. We'll talk about our 3 favorites each. You guys do the same, so get ready. That's what we're going to do. Till then, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell to get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. If you love what we're doing here, we've got channel memberships. Look for that join button. I know a lot of people seem to have a hard time finding it on mobile. I don't know. It's there somewhere. On the desktop, it's right by the subscribe button. I don't know. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know where the hell it is on iPhone. But anyway, it's there somewhere. Anyway, if you want to join, that's down there as well. We got also the links to our merch page and our Ko-Fi page and our Cameo page. And if you want me to do a video for you singing the soundtrack to the Sound of Music, I could do that. If you want me to recite lyrics from God, I forget the name. What's the name of that funny band that from a couple weeks ago? Chifoma Wumbo. What?
Shwaddy.
That's it. Yes.
Very much the British Shana.
There you go. See that? So
if you ask
maybe you want me to
really
recite
nicely,
a lyric to Shiwatawabi, right? So,
yeah, if you ask Pete really nicely, he'll dress like Clive Dunn. He'll wear that old hat and he'll put on his grey moustache and he'll sing you, what was it? Cleaning my rifle, dreaming of you.
oh, I'm dreaming of you. Oh Lord. Anyway, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. Yeah. Let us know.
It's all right. Nobody watches this far. It's all right.
No, they don't. They've already tuned out. So we could just sit here and just, be stupid for another 3 minutes.
If I had any, I would.
Let me sit here till Sunday morning and see if anybody pays attention.
Sal has already checked out 5 minutes ago saying Carpe Diem to everybody and say, have a great, thanks for the insightful show, guys. And meanwhile, we're still going on and on for another 10 minutes, right? So Gary Joyce, one of these days you got to ask Sal why he's always saying goodbye like 5 minutes before the video's done. I'd like to know. I'd ask him myself, but Gary's the principal. He should be the one taking care of all that stuff, right? I don't do this.
Keep him in line. Keep him in line.
Keep him in line, right? Sal, you got to stay till the end, man, because you never know. You can get cool blooper shit like this, right? Maybe one day, I'm going to surprise you all one day. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to go grab a verse from a Shiwatawabi classic, and I'm going to recite it right here for you when you least expect it. You've already tuned out, and I'm going to do that. So, see that? Maybe not. Anyway, thanks for watching us on the UK Connection. List your favorite soundtracks down below, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for Power Metal favorites from 1997. Till then, for Simon and Steven, I am Pete. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Don't forget tomorrow morning, ranking the albums of Vanilla Fudge. Coming at you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Till then, have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Remember. Anyway, enough of that. Bye, everybody.
Go together like Shubat the bottom of DVD.
I'm going. Bye.